Hey everybody, welcome to Spill the Novelty, where three girlies shout into the void about our latest book hot takes and obsessions. I'm Abby,
I'm Maddie.
I'm Kaylee.
and this week we're talking about my favorite YA novel, spotlight on me, Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. So if you are a huge fan of Red Queen back when it came out like me, and you want to hear if it still lives up to the hype a decade later, because I too forgot, here's the tea.
Okay, so let's jump into the world of Red Queen. So in this book, there are two main classes depending on whether you have red blood or silver blood. The reds are commoners who live in poverty as servants mainly, while the silvers are like the elite class and they have these supernatural powers, which is kind of cool. So personally, I really loved the concept of this book 9 years ago when it came out. And I still think it's pretty good, even if it's like your typical YA premise, like the dystopian world and there's the class system and all that. I think it makes sense for the actions that happen in the book. Like everything ties really well together, but it was very cookie cutter. So I was less of a fan of it this time than I was 9 years ago, personally.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was like very gracefully done. Like I've kind of been thinking about this as like the quintessential YA book in my head because I think it hits all the
Yes.
points in a way that is more gracefully done than other books in the genre, but they're all the points that you would expect from the genre, so you're not really surprised by anything in the setup. Like the first 20% or so of the book was rather boring, not because it wasn't written well or any, but there was just nothing surprising. Like it was just kind of all the same kind of like, I was kind of like had this blank template of like what's a dystopian and feeding pieces into there. So it's like, okay, the reds and silvers are what we do here. Okay, it's the superpowers. Okay, she's a thief, she's poor. Like, okay, here's this piece and whatever. So it was like,
Mm-hmm.
I think it is very well done for the genre, and I don't want to fault it for that. It just wasn't, as a grown-up human reading it for the first time, who's very familiar with all of those kind of levers, I was bored for the first 20%. But it's not the book's fault, because the book did the genre well, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It was very much checking
Yeah.
all the boxes on a checklist. Like
Yes.
that's what I was kind of doing in my head. I was like, oh, there's another one.
Yep, there it is. There it is. There it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think to your point too, Maddie, about this being like the quintessential one. That's kind of how I thought about it. It was like this is the cookie that we are
Mm-hmm.
this is the shape, this is the mold that we are using to
Yes.
um tell these other stories. And I would honestly be curious to, I don't remember in the heat of everything in the 2010s and when all these started coming out, I don't remember where this fell in the timeline of all the YA stuff, but I think for the moment that it was into, it definitely ate it up pretty well because it's easy for us in hindsight to see that pattern, and I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
that all the authors at that moment were very much keyed into that, but as a reader we were still kind of like getting used to
Yeah.
that formula, and it was great at that time. It totally makes sense now. And the thing that I like too is that even though you have these very like cookie cutter check boxes, I still think that Victoria Aveyard does a good job of maintaining nuance and kind of cool twists to some of these
Mm-hmm.
things too. So it's like it's cookie cutter, but even like the example I think about is like for YA a more kind of nuanced take on like the price of revolution, and I think Cal
Mm-hmm.
kind of has empathy, but also like understands that his people matter to him more. But I think it has a good balance, a good take on that. So I like it.
Yeah, I think looking at the plot like as a whole, I was really glad that we read this after Shatter Me because we had that kind of spicy not spicy conversation about like what can we expect from YA to like what can we expect YA to give. Um and I think
Hmm.
this book is a perfect example of what YA can give because in my opinion it gives so much more than Shatter
Hmm.
Me. The characters are so much deeper, but they still feel like teenagers. They still make sense. It makes sense in a dystopian setting. And I think like once you get past that 20% mark and the book starts actually picking up, like it's done all its homework of setting up the world, I was not so bogged down by like kind of like the YA tropes. But it was just getting through that first slog of like setting up the world, which is hard to do for anyone. But yeah, I don't know. I think absolutely the second act and definitely the third act, like it slays, honestly, in terms of YA for me, in terms of like turning tropes on their head and doing things that there were so many times where a thought crossed my mind that I was like, oh, this could happen. I was like, but it's YA, it won't. And then it did. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
slay. Let's go. I didn't know we were going to push it that far. I love this, you know? So it's really good in that
Especially
sense.
the moment.
The moment. Yeah.
Which we'll have to get to in a little bit. But yeah. It's good. I like it.
Yeah. So our queen that we're following, because it's YA, so of course it's our queen. Her name is Mare, like a horse, which is a choice. She is a 17 because this is YA. She's 17, of course. She's a red, and she is also, of course, very poor. She thieves for her family to give them money. She has a lot of siblings. Most of them have been drafted to join the military, which is her fate because she doesn't have like a trade or a skill. So like on her 18th birthday or something, she will go off to the front lines to perish. She is definitely your typical YA protagonist. She's a little too sassy for her best interest. She's a bit scrappy, you know. She has this like inexplicable magnetism to every man around her age that they just like fucking cannot get enough of her for whatever reason. She's, I guess, presumably like very hot when she showers. Even when she's not showered, according to Cal, I think.
Always.
Just always hot.
Just disgusting. Yeah, that's my favorite.
But of course,
YA
she doesn't
girl
describe
thing.
herself
like
as hot.
No, she would never, you know.
That would be a sin.
But she'd just be like utterly disgusting, covered in dirt, has a shower for weeks, months, whatever, and is just somehow just there's just something about her. Maybe it's the eyes, it's the hair. I don't know.
Her. All these princes. It's fine. It's fine. I think I liked her. She's not unlikable. Her voice is pretty strong. She's sassy, which we always like. I will say she's less cringe than like a very stereotypical YA protagonist. I thought her actions made a lot of sense with her background and growing up. I liked that she had kind of the development of her family relationships and caring about them, and like that priority doesn't really just leave because she's put into a dress and like carted off to a different world. So for YA, I think she's deeper characterized than a lot of YA protags that we get, and I was pleased. I was pleased with her. She was fine.
Okay, to be honest, like, I don't disagree with anything you said, but I can't think of anything that's, like, unique or interesting about her other than the fact that she's a thief. You know what I mean? Like, she checks all the boxes, like we were saying earlier. Other than being a thief, because that's kind of unique for a YA book, in my opinion. She's slightly snarky and has some, like, moments where I'm like, oh yeah, go off, queen. But, like, there's just nothing, like, there's no oomph, you know?
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say I recently was reading, like, some critiques and stuff of this book, and one person was just like, I really like the plot, I really like this world, I like the brothers as princes and everything, I just don't really like being through Mare's perspective, and like I think that's like fair enough. I will say some things that I did like though, in terms of like how her character is written. I like that she is obviously very devoted to her family, but she still has a complicated relationship with her parents and her sister in particular. I think that she definitely makes some impulsive decisions and obviously trusts particularly Maven too quickly and too deeply. But what I like is that I think it makes sense for her as this YA dystopian lead because she's discovering so much about her world and already has a lot of anger at the way things are. And she finally gets a glimpse in this like hopeful opportunity and an opportunity to join the Scarlet Guard, and they need Maven, they need someone on their side, and he does a decent of appearing like that's what he wants. So I think that even when she has these kind of impulsive moments, I do like that it's always guided by like this kind of deeper sense of hope and kind of her coming to terms with rebellion. So so I like her. Again, cookie cutter, but more like setting, I don't know, kind of sets the bar for a lot of the YA at that moment, I think. So
yeah, I think like, and this might have carried her through for me for a bit, but I loved that she was not good at anything, so she didn't have a trade, so she just had to steal. Like, I loved the whole setup of her younger sister being the one that was going to save the family, and like her complicated relationship around that, and like kind of this like really like her older brothers also in theory didn't have a traitorous skill, but it felt very different. It felt very much like she was being compared to her younger sister in a way that they weren't, because there was an expectation, kind of like probably a gender expectation, that like war is a reasonable occupation, but like she was going to war because she literally could offer like nothing else. And I liked in the beginning setup, like that's what saved the beginning of the book from not being completely boring, was like just exploring that complication a little bit. The fact that she fails them, like she feels flawed, and I think that's what's nice, is like every time she makes a wrong decision, it feels believable without being so forced. And so that's kind of what saved her to me. But I also don't think she's like terribly interesting. Like if you ask me in a week what her name is, I will not remember, because she's not giving.
The horse though.
The horse. She's a horse.
The horse. Maybe you'll remember. Yeah. And this will be probably the first of like 5 times I say this in the episode, but I do remember this series being really good. I can't remember though what happens. Like that's the great thing about not remembering shit, is like I could not tell you what anything else that happens in this series. So I get to experience the first time all over.
This was the only book of the series that I read, because I think I read it right when it came out, and then the other books didn't come till like a year and a half later, and so I was like, I lost interest or whatever. Yeah, I had moved on.
That's fair.
But what's interesting about these discussions we're having about like her being like other YA characters and stuff is that this book came out in 2015, which was after Hunger Games, after Divergent, and after a lot of those really big dystopian novels.
Okay.
So you would think it had more potential to be a little bit more unique, I feel like, but it was probably just feeding off of those other like dystopian novels.
Yeah,
so
like she read all those other books and took notes.
Yeah.
And combined them.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah, that is.
And honestly, Slay though, I think that's smart though. Like I think maybe like the pattern is there. So that makes sense for her to be like, okay, I bet we got our checklist here. But it's also, I mean, if you're gonna do that, do it well. And I think that she definitely did.
Yeah.
And so like, because for the sheer number of YA dystopian novels that came out during that time, there were a lot that I think tried to do the formula and did not do it well. So at least, hey, you're gonna be smart, do it well. Yeah. But that is interesting to know, like where that falls in the timeline.
I will say, and this can be like our last note on Mare, because we have so much more to get through, but we don't have a section for Kalorn specifically, so I want to complain about him here.
Oh.
That's one thing she did bad. I did not give a fuck about Kalorn. I don't know what she was on. Yeah. He felt so inserted, so random. I was like, he's giving Gale in like all the wrong ways. Like, he does not need to be there. Delete every mention of him. The only time I cared about him was when he gave her the earring. And I was like, that was a cute scene. That was cute. That was cute. I appreciated that. But the rest of it, delete. Delete.
It was like,
And
it was very much showing
Mhm.
and not telling, because it was like telling us, telling and not showing, because it was telling us, this is my best friend. He's so great. He's so funny. We have all these great moments together. We're so playful. And then we didn't get an ounce of that. It was just like alpha male all the way. Like, he was very much like,
Yeah, it was gross.
oh, this is who you are now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like you. Like, I don't believe anything you're saying, even though we're best friends. Like, it was so unlikable. It was gross.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the thing that sets him apart too from like a Gale character to me is because like you know, we all hate Gale by the end of the Hunger Games because we know that he commits the big crime. And he just generally gets annoying as fuck. But the thing that makes me even more annoyed with Kalorn is that there's like this repeated refrain of like Mare feeling the need to take care of him and save him. And now I understand the general sentiment of not wanting any of your friends or family to be stuck in this terrible situation that they're in, but specifically like her feeling the need to like save him. And that is a repeated thing. So to your point, Kaylee, about him like being an alpha male, I totally got that vibe, but it's really annoying that it's like has this like weird alpha male like attitude and simultaneously always needs Mare to save his ass and like
Yeah.
and I want my friend out of this shitty situation. Like, even when he's in the fucking Scarlet Guard, it's like, what do you think is gonna happen here? Like, taking a walk in the park? Like, you should know better than anyone, having grown up in all this, that's not how this is gonna go. So, like, at least to Gale's credit, you never get that sense. Like, he's whiny and complains, but it's not like Katniss has to specifically save him. Like, he knows what he's getting into.
Feel more equal. And I also, at least for me, like, I didn't hate Gale off the bat. Like, even by the end of the series, I didn't really hate Gale, to be honest. I was like, I never wanted her to be with him, but I was like, damn, like, that's tough, brother. Like, yeah, it sucks that you went down that path. But, like, Kalorn, we don't get space to actually like him before the entire precipice of the book is based on saving him.
Right.
And that's where it falls apart. It's like, I actually don't care about, like, I care way more about her little sister than Kalorn. Like,
yeah, agreed. No, that's a great way of putting it. It's like we hadn't had time to like him, so why do we care about saving him?
Yeah,
and repeatedly saving him. So
yeah.
Speaking of so Mare does indeed attract all these men in this book. And the second one that comes up is none other than Cal. So Mare meets a 19-year-old named Cal when she's trying to pickpocket from him during one of her pickpocketing escapades. And we later find out that he is actually the prince who is next in line to become king of...
How could we ever have guessed?
And he's a silver. We never would have guessed. This has never happened in other YA books. But that being said, I really like Cal. This is the second time I'm going to mention it. I don't remember what he's, but I do think my love for him continues to grow, but I don't remember. He's a good guy, but knows that there's like blood on his hands either way. And I think that he has kind of like a complicated thought process about, you know, everything going on. And then there's also some scenes that I love that had me kicking my feet a little bit with him. But yeah, that's my thought. That's my thought on Cal.
I agree about the cute scenes and stuff. And I really like Cal, which is like surprising because he's a moral guy, and I typically don't like those guys in books. Like, that's very unlike me, but
so true.
I did like Cal. I liked him from the start of the book, just like we're intended to, and kind of a lukewarm take. I also liked him like in the middle of the book when we're supposed to not really know how we feel about Cal. Like, I liked him because I found him easy to forgive because like he's just conditioned to the environment that he's grown up in, you know? Like, he can't help his thoughts, like the way that he like feels about certain things and how like grossly moral he is towards his people and not the Reds. Like, that's what he's grown up in. How is he supposed to know any different? So I liked him the whole time, personally.
Yeah, Cal, he does exist for sure. This was a rougher one for me. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't hate him by any means, but I had no feelings really about him. Like, some of the scenes were cute. Maybe I would like kick my toe a little bit. I'd be like, oh, That was kind of cute. But like they were never
lifting a toe.
They were never like fully cute. Like it just didn't go far enough for me to really feel the romance, to feel the like it didn't fully sell for me. I was being told that we were interested in Cal, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I guess." The meet cute I also thought was weird because it's like the meet cute is almost like a non-action on his part. Like I think I'm more used to it like she tries to rob him and then he just simply chooses to not like, I don't know, fight her, and she's like, he's different than every other person I've ever met. And I'm like, I kind of wish it was a little bit more proactive. I thought the whole scene was a little clunky and weird. And also we don't really get any additional context later that like why he made that choice or why he was even there. He's just kind of like, I sneak out sometimes. And it's like, but like what were you what were you doing? Like what was going on? Like I needed something a little more to give him character than just being like the long suffering, oh, the burden of the crown is on me and all the people blah 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 blah, I'm so moral, blah blah blah, boring. The only time he was interesting was in the very end when he made a choice that I didn't expect from YA, and I was like, okay, I can kind of get on board with this, but like the rest of the time I was like, this bro is made of cardboard. Like he literally, you like pull the little toy thing and he goes, I care about my people, I don't want violence. Bzz. Oh my god, the crown is such a heavy weight.
I don't disagree with that, but I think what I like about his character though is that I think you see the seeds, like the seeds are being planted for him to not be that way, which to your point doesn't change the fact that's not how he is in this book. But I think that like when he sneaks out, he's trying to, you know, see how things are from the Red's perspective, which I know is very much like, oh, you poor rich boy prince. Yeah. You know, how else will you understand your people? But I do think that is an interesting enough setup of like, you know, for a teenager, for again, and why it makes sense. He's like, okay, I'm being adventurous. I'm gonna sneak out. I'm gonna like see how that life is, and I think that's why he let her just steal, because he's dealing with a lot of guilt that he needs to direct somewhere. But I don't know. I think that there's the process is going. It's moving, but it's not the most like action packed yet. So I do agree with that.
Yeah, I think like I would have cared more. I genuinely think we just didn't get enough time with him for me to care as much as we were supposed to.
Yeah.
A lot of that time was dedicated to Maven for reasons that make perfect sense for the third act. But like, I just like most of the time we weren't even fucking talking to Cal. So like, I don't care about him. Like I just know Homegirl has it down bad because he's the first boy that she ever met besides Kalorn. And I'm just supposed to like accept that and then like move right the hell along. And it's like, okay, like there's a moment where she's like, Cal loves me, and I'm like, I was like, she might as well have slapped me across the face. I was like, what the fuck? What do you mean he loves you? Where has that been? Like the romance in this book was so surface level, it was not even on my radar. I had no idea what Mare wanted for most of the book. There's even a part where with Maven, there's like one line and she was like, I had to fight the urge to kiss him again. And I was like, oh, I thought we were pretending this whole time. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't know that we were like into it. Like, oh my god, like it's just so, I don't know if it's sanitized to try and keep it YA, but like it was so sanitized to the point where I was like, does Homegirl even care about either of these boys? Like,
I think that's kind of the point, though, because she admits at the end of the book, like, she admits, like, I was using Maven and I was using Cal.
But she says she loves Maven. She says at the end, she's like, I loved you. And then she also says that she, like, loved Cal. And I'm like, I didn't get that at all, baby girl. Like, I think we're just saying words at this point.
Is she lying to Maven? I'm asking that as a genuine question, because if so, that's, I missed that.
I don't think she's clever enough to lie to Maven. I'm not gonna lie. She's a little sassy. I don't think she's clever.
Well,
that's me. That's just me.
I don't know. I think the truth is that she was using both of them. Like, I don't think she really like has genuine feelings for either of them, or maybe she has like a little bit of feelings towards Maven, but I don't think she loves him or thinks she loves him. Like I don't take that the same way that you did.
Cal is the only genuine one in the entire book. TBH.
True.
Which is why I'm so
surprised that. Which is why I'm so surprised, Maddie, that because normally you like the like kind of cardboard guys that I think are cardboard, but you don't think are cardboard, and normally we don't have like, you know what I'm saying? Like we have complete opposite takes usually, because you liked like Aaron from Bridge Kingdom.
I thought he was fine. You know,
and I hated him, and I was like, oh, he's so moral, and it's so just boring, and then now. I feel like we've completely switched places.
I'll be honest. I do think, like, after reading the specific books we've read throughout the pod, I'm so much more sick of the moral guy than, like, I was at the start. Because it is so common in this genre, and I would normally have, like, more time between or more breaks with other genres, and it's, like, I'm so much more, like... when I tell you reading not Cruel Prince, Six of Crows again, I was feral for Kaz in a way that I wasn't even feral for him before, because I was just like, oh my god, finally, like someone that'll do something.
You were starving.
Like, holy shit. I don't know. Anyways,
I have a very important question. I know we're talking too much about Cal, but I will ask the deciding question. Is he blonde? Did they say?
He's
drawn
with
dark hair.
They have glossy black hair.
They're dark-headed boys,
and they're super pallid.
I forget that they're healers. They probably look alike.
Yeah, okay. They do look alike.
Yeah,
but there's a very interesting dynamic. Yeah.
Except Maven has
his name
blue
sounds
eyes.
blonde.
Yeah.
Oh right.
Maven has blue eyes, and Cal has fiery red, orange eyes.
Yeah, he has like orange eyes.
They're fucking glowing like embers or something.
Which would be terrifying.
Yeah, it's fucking weird.
He got that Edward Cullen moral high ground. Okay. I see.
Anyway. Okay. So let's move on. Okay, so Cal gets Mare a job working as a servant for the king, and she serves for the Queen's trial. I think that's how you say it. Which is basically a power showdown between, like, the most eligible bachelorettes, so they can become betrothed to the princes. And during the trial, Mare ends up discovering that she possesses the power of lightning in this really cool way that's way too hard to explain. And it's, like, in front of all of the silvers, which is really interesting, and I loved that. So I love this scene. This is my favorite scene of the book, because typically YA protagonists find out about their like special powers in private or from a young age, and they're like forced to hide it. But Mare finds out like in front of all of these other people, and I don't know. I just think this is a really unique idea. I like it.
Yeah, likewise.
Yep.
Pop off, Abby.
Makes sense that she started working as a servant. Yeah, no, I mean, all I was gonna just say is that, like, I think the reveal makes a lot of sense for the story, and I also like too that they're discovering her powers, because I feel like whenever characters discovering their powers, like, the most inconvenient thing that happens is that maybe they haven't been trained with them yet. They don't know how to control them. But I like that in this case, like, the very fact that she has powers is like a massive threat to the entire like social structure. Like, this should not be happening, right? So there's just such a quick effort to conceal all this and like change her entire story. So I think that adds like an interesting element to it too. It's not just like, oh, she needs to make sure that the lightning bolt, you know, hits the enemy and not herself. But so not only that, but also like, hey, this could impact our entire social structure, kind of big deal. So yeah, I like it.
Yeah, just call out Fourth Wing, Abby. Just say it with your chest.
Yeah, let me not say what I was gonna say. Yeah, she has more problems than just knowing where to direct the lightning bolt. Yes.
Yeah, I agree. Y'all know the Chosen One shit for me is tough. It's a tough sell. I really liked the way this was done. I thought the scene was super fun. Honestly, I thought it was kind of funny because I was like, homegirl gets a job, she gets saved, and then she's in like the exact wrong place at the wrong time. Like it was like funny. I like enjoyed it. I was like, oh, this poor bastard. Like she cannot
Went
catch a
down
break.
bad
Yeah.
kind of way, yeah.
And it's so funny because
Yeah,
like Cal's
take
trying
this
to
L.
help her, and if he would have just left her alone, like honestly would have been better off. Probably not, because she's probably fucking queen of the galaxy by the end of the series, I'm sure, but y'all get what I'm saying. I liked the discovery of her power and how it happened in front of everyone and how that put the king and queen in like a really difficult position or whatever. I'm just curious, like, why is it always lightning? Like, why is this the YA female thing? Like, is it because fire is too like masculine, so we don't want to get like girl fire? Like, I've never seen such dedication to a very specific power and ability than in YA. It's like it has to be lightning. There's no other option. Like, is it Azula from Avatar: The Last Airbender? Like, did she just really like affect everyone that strongly? Because like I get it, she's sick, but like,
Yeah, a great point.
I guess
was your
it's
guess, Kaylee?
because like it has to be you have to pick the most powerful element, which is so lame. But like, because like water isn't deadly by itself, and fire is deadly, but like you can extinguish it. And then lightning, it's like if you get struck by lightning, you have like such a high chance of dying, you know?
yeah.
So that's my guess. It's like they have to pick the most powerful element because God forbid they have like something that's less powerful than other people, you know?
Because I really liked
I hate it.
that a lot of the other powers, I mean, some of them were random and like whatever, but like I liked that in general, at least the elemental people, it felt very balanced. Like it's like the fire people, but if there's like a fucking nymph, like they just create steam. And then it's like I liked that her lightning plays into that, and it's like, well, they have water all around them, so like that conducts electricity. Like I liked the Pokemon of it all, but it's also like, can we just, why is this so popular in this genre? Like, what about this is just, it just speaks to everyone. Like, please, can like, I would love to get a main character that's all like angry, puffed up, and then it's like their power is like, I can heal scabs instantly. Cause like, just work around it. That's why, like, I liked that she wasn't good at anything, and then, you know, then she gets like an OP power, and it's like, okay, well, anyways, whatever. Y'all know. I'm gonna step off myself.
I think it's
because I've gone on it so
genuinely
times.
too. I think it's like it's the fact that it's the most powerful, like you said, Kaylee, and then also just the visuals of it all. So
Yeah,
you know,
true.
just lightning,
screen.
like it's being so dramatic for the screen. Yeah, for the fan art, you know, you gotta give the girls something to look at, and what cooler than lightning, you know?
At least in this world and setting, electricity seems so important in general.
Yes.
So I liked that tie into it. Like, this felt like a forgivable
Yes.
instance where it was like that was chosen more intentionally as a way to tie into the world and their bigger problems and like the things that they struggle with as like a culture. And it almost makes sense. Like, I hope the direction that it goes is like the Reds develop from like a survival instinct standpoint. Like, electricity is so important, so she developed the ability to control electricity, like that kind of thing, where it's like you put people in this survival state for long enough, they evolve into what they need. So I did like that, but just in general, question to the genre, like, can we think of anything else? That's all. I rest my case.
Well, and the cameras, and the last thing I'll say too.
Yeah, the cameras.
Yeah, we want to see something stupid. The cameras and the broadcasting of it all. Like, I do think that there are some interesting tie-ins there. So agreed. Let's do something new, but at least it had an interesting edge. Yeah.
Okay, so after she is exposed to the world as having powers, the king and queen yoink her up, and they're like, well, what do we do with her? Like, everyone knows that she exists, so we unfortunately can't kill her. So the next logical best step is that she becomes betrothed to the younger son, the younger prince, not Cal, the younger prince Maven, which is an interesting choice. So they also basically pretend that she's a silver, so she has to wear like caked on makeup because red blood, blush, blah blah blah. It's different than silver. Silvers look really pallid. And they kind of create this whole narrative about like where she came from, and she was like lost in the war and they just didn't know about her. It really doesn't hold up because Homegirl bled through her life, and there's no way that if she had silver blood, like she wouldn't have been turned in. And also when she fell like 4 stories onto the shield, I know she didn't get electrified. That's how she gets like exposed, but like she definitely at least had a cut and she was bleeding. We're told we don't ask these questions. Okay, it's YA.
Don't ask. Don't
ask. Don't ask, don't tell, if you will.
Yeah.
So everyone's going to believe this narrative that she's just like a lost silver. She's betrothed to the younger prince. And she's basically forced to like play along with this because otherwise she'll be killed. So I did think the betrothal to Maven was random. I do think it was a control thing. Maybe they wanted to like make sure, that she's like under lock and key in a way that they couldn't necessarily if they were just like, you're part of the courts now, because she would have to be cared for by someone, and they didn't want to tell anyone that she was like a red and whatever. So I think maybe that's why. But also, I wouldn't be surprised if it was like a specific choice made by the queen for ulterior motives to try and use her to get close to like the rebellion, which we'll talk about in a second, that the king just like wasn't aware because he's kind of a himbo. But yeah, it did feel very random at the time. It felt like a choice that was made specifically to not betroth her to Cal to create tension to me. But
they couldn't betroth her to Cal because then she would become queen. And they don't want her to become queen.
Author decision. Like, we're not going to betroth her to Cal specifically, so we have this, like...
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
You know. That's true. Then we'll make it make sense somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right.
The betrothal happening at all was the part that I was kind of like...
Yeah.
Surely they could have found some other use for her. They could have had her in the court somewhere else. I don't know. But I do think it makes sense that if they're going to betroth her to one of their sons, it of course has to be Maven. It can't be Cal. And I think that also like serves the purpose of initially kind of showing us like what the king and queen think, or what we think they think of Maven compared to Cal, right? Like, here, just take this
boy
woman as your wife. We hate her, actually. So she is like an enemy to us now, and now you're betrothed. But Cal, he'll get a whole trial to figure out who his wife should be and all that. So
that is an interesting point, Abby, because it's very much like willingly sullying the bloodline, the royal bloodline, because they're obviously going to have children, and because like it feels very much like they're directly inviting like a snake into the nest. But then even more than that, they're like, these are going to be our grandchildren. They could come out fucking red and not silver. Like, does anyone even know what that is like? Like, does anyone know the genetic sprawl of like, what is the Punnett square for reds and silvers?
True.
Like, we're rolling the dice here.
To know. Yeah. Well, and I think the king just straight up doesn't care, because he doesn't care about Maven, at least compared to Cal. And then, like you said, the queen probably has her own motivation. So
yeah, it's an interesting choice for sure.
Yeah. No, I just didn't get the proposal initially, or the betrothal, but I guess it makes sense in hindsight. Well, so we have that, that's how she ends up in the court. She ends up betrothed to Maven. And during her time at the kingdom, though, she learns about the Scarlet Guard, which is a rebellion formed by some Reds that she knows. And so she joins this rebellion, and in a plot twist moment earlier on in the book, or like midway through, so does Maven, which I will say that I thought that scene, like, I wasn't expecting him to show up, and I did not remember that he showed up, which is a pivotal point. But
me neither.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, right, this is kind of like, the whole point of the book. But yeah, I thought the Scarlet Guard was cool. Again, very cut and paste YA, but I like the scenes and the tea, the notes, the rendezvous at midnight. Yeah, I hated Kalorn's dumbass being there, but we already established that.
Yeah.
And I kind of just like the ways that they showed that the guard was like kind of slowly seeping into Red society, and that the way that the Silvers either didn't take it seriously or were trying to kind of suppress it. Yeah, I was here for it.
Yeah. I did like that it felt like we were coming into a conflict that had been brewing and that had been ignored by the royal family, rather than like it only starting because Mare existed, which I think is typical for a lot of YA books. Like the side characters never move unless Mare is in the room. And I felt like there was less of that here. Like the Scarlet Guard had been brewing, they had a system, whatever. However, as soon as they get Mare, everything changes. And I thought that part was a little hard of a sell for me, just because I'm like, we're putting so many of our eggs in one basket. Like, can we get an adult in the room to run the rebellion and like realize that like we maybe shouldn't be telling? Like, I'm with you, girl. At this point, I'm with you. I would love to believe Maven. However, I don't really think we should just like do that instantly. No. Like, I think we should have a little bit higher burden of proof. But they don't. And so I'm like, I don't remember how old the main girl is, but I'm just
Harley.
Like, yeah, she's probably like 19. So I'm like, yeah, it kind of makes sense.
Will's the only adult.
Yeah. And so
is that
I'm
his
like,
name? Will?
Yeah, and he's
I
like,
think the rest are like, yeah, and the rest are like, oh.
Yeah, I'm like,
yeah, I
this
totally
is
agree with you.
Teenagers.
No, it really is. And like they're only like, what's the word? Their only like interrogation of Maven is like literally being like, so why do you want to join the rebellion? And then he's like, because this. And they're like, okay,
that makes sense.
That's fine.
For you to, like,
and then they just like
family.
let him. Yeah, they're like, sure,
and give up the throne, just... any possibility of the throne.
So dumb. And I didn't like any of the Scarlet Guard characters. Like, I didn't like any of them. I didn't even like Farley. Like, they were just very meh, and I just...
Well, they're just too...
I didn't have any reason to care about it.
Yeah, we don't get enough time with them to care about them. Like,
yeah,
Farley seems cool, but she's never anything more than just seeming cool, because she's just there only when they need her to be, you know?
Yeah, that's true. Maybe in the next book we'll get more of her.
Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe. And if we do, I hope she's kind of flawed, low-key. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. I was going to say, I guess we should talk about Maven a little bit, since we talked about Cal. So, like, personally, I had trouble liking Maven. Like, I think we're supposed to like him and trust him, but I had a lot of trouble liking him, and mostly because of his outward jealousy for his brother, and it was just, like, so icky, and he would make these little, like, snide comments to Mare, like, when she was talking about something, he was like, "You're right, Mare, no one should feel sorry for me," and he says it, like, with bitterness in his voice, and it's just, like, I get that he has reason to feel jealous of his brother, don't get me wrong, and he's a teenager or whatever, but I just didn't like it. Like, I don't know, I didn't like him because of it, I guess is what I'm saying.
I like him as villain, but not as love interest, which we kind of already talked about. I didn't really give two shits about him and Mare as a thing. Not because I don't think he's a worthwhile love interest, but I just like wasn't buying that there was anything going on there. But he is a villain. He is definitely a villain. I think that he, and I love a good villain. I love that he weaponizes his jealousy of Cal to really like distance himself from him, but also and gain the Scarlet Guard's trust. He's different from Cal. His loyalties are different, but when really that's just a setup for him to come into power. So I do love him as a villain. I think the king scene at the end is just chef's kiss. I love that. Obviously that's him and his mom, but and in the most Oedipal way possible. Yeah, he's a good villain. I just don't really give two shit about the romance there, which is fine. And I know Maddie's ready. Go on, Queen.
I loved Maven. I thought he was fun. I'm a sucker for a spare story. Like, I love the idea of a jilted, like the heir and the spare, and then the spare, they create the monster that they never wanted to because they disregard them their whole lives and they're like, Xena's not important. And I loved that characterization. I thought the jealousy made sense. I thought he had really cute moments. I loved the dynamic of like Cal being the flame and him being the shadow and the shadow controlling the flame. Like, I really loved that thing that they played off a couple times where it was like, Cal is so fucking himbo sometimes that like you just place like a suggestive word and Cal's like, ugh, I'm gonna go do it. And it's like, I loved that there was like the cleverness there that Maven knew how to control his brother because he was forced to, but Cal also looks down on Maven and like when they're sparring in the thing and Cal's like, yeah, you need to like outthink your opponent when they're stronger than you, and Maven just kind of takes that and he's like, you're right, like that's my bad. And then in the end, who the fuck gets outsmarted? It's Cal. Get fucked, bitch. You shouldn't have underestimated Maven either. I love the villain arc. I loved it. Because I thought they weren't gonna go there. I thought they were just gonna make Maven like just a sad little e-boy, you know, and I loved that he actually got his villain moment. And I also loved that his mom manipulates him just as much as everyone else, but he doesn't see it because she's the only one that's shown any kind of care for him. It's, for me, it was giving like Draco Malfoy realness, where it's like, this boy has the potential to do great things, but he's been poisoned by the people around him that are so manipulative and so toxic. And so, yeah, I love them. I didn't think Mare was interested in him at any point, but I liked him a lot because, again, I was just like not entranced by Cal. And I liked the idea of like something different, you know? It's like, obviously we think Cal is going to be the love interest, and I was very intrigued by the fact that we were kind of being led down a different path, and I wanted to see it through. So I really like Maven. He had a lot more depth than Cal, in my opinion. He also had more time, just because we had to kind of like be more bought into him for like the betrayal at the end to matter. So like I get that that's like a, you know, a limitation of the story, but like way more interesting to me than the Cal plotline, honestly.
No, I actually think we're agreeing with each other, Maddie, but in different ways. So, okay, let me explain. I didn't like him as the love interest, is what I was saying. I never bought into the love between him and Mare building. Like, I just didn't like any of that. But I liked him as a villain, like you're saying. Like, so if we're viewing him from the villain perspective strictly, like I bought that, and I really, really liked that. Like, it made sense, and it was a great twist, and yeah, so we agree.
And frankly, like, I would be down for him to still be the love interest. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I think that would be a way more interesting path to take than just, like, her and Cal teaming up against him, and then we have the same fucking vanilla love that we've had in every other book. I don't think it'll go that way, obviously, because this is YA. But I think it would be way more interesting.
He tried to kill her.
Okay.
So you would get over that if your man's tried to murder you in an arena and you're just like...
Well, yeah, the end, yeah. But, like, I'm talking more like... I don't know. I mean, like, shit happens in YAs. Like, people get over that kind of shit all the time, and we're just expected to believe it. Like,
they do not get over trying to murder. They don't get over someone trying to murder them, do they? I've never read a book like that, at least.
Well,
the way after we're done, because here's the thing, I will probably at some point read the second book. There's no way I'm gonna make it through this series again. So the way when I log off later, the way I'll be Googling, does Mare end up with Cal or Maven? Because I don't actually. Oh, you did, dude. I don't know. I feel like the girls love Maven.
Do they?
You want me to confirm or deny?
I feel like I'm alone in this. I felt the way
I don't think you're alone.
I felt about PETA in the Hunger Games, but that was the only time I've ever won. I always choose the second male lead. Y'all know this about me. I always choose the second male lead.
You really do.
Because I want something interesting. I don't want something predictable. And like, yes, Kaylee, they do, because that's good enemies to lovers, is when they try and kill each other and then they fall in love after. Yeah. Lean back in your seat because you know I'm fucking right. Lean back.
I see what you're saying, But I think the way he tried to murder her in this gruesome way in an arena with so many people watching is different than like the typical like he tried to choke her to death or strangle her to death really quickly. Like I feel like this is different. Like this is unforgivable.
This
in
was
my
so much
opinion.
more serious to you than it was to me. This just felt like business as usual for how this society operates, like an arena fight. Like that was so normalized throughout the book to us. Like I think it didn't feel that serious. Not that serious. Let me pick better words. It didn't feel as insulting as it seems like it read to you. So I think that's why it's not like that
I
big of a
think the
deal to
reason
me.
I found it insulting is because Cal had said like they hadn't done this in like hundreds of years. Like they hadn't done the arena
execution,
death
yeah.
like this.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, to execute. And so I think that's why I read it that way, is like they're choosing this like unusual, disrespectful death for these people, you know? That's how I read
but
it,
like
at
they
least.
gave them a fighting chance. Like honestly, if it was up to me, I just would have been like 3 bullets to the head, like you're done for. But they let them fight. Like they let Cal have his powers. I thought that was fucking crazy. They were like, we want to
I
honor
also thought
him
that
as
was
a
crazy.
prince. Why?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
Why?
Like it,
Yeah, they
it was,
let both of
make
them
him
keep
take
their
his L.
powers. They didn't do anything to limit their powers, did they?
yes, she didn't have her powers until they killed
Oh.
the one guy. He was
Yeah.
limiting her powers.
Until they killed that guy. I
Yeah.
forgot about that. Yeah. Yeah, that was wild to me too.
I just looked it up, so now I know.
I could have told
I will
you.
not say. Yeah. T.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
we kind of talked about
Go
it.
ahead.
The next section is just about Maven's betrayal. So basically, we kind of go through the middle of the book and we're kind of like being fed this like I honestly wouldn't even say it's like a full romance because it's just kind of like these two are put together a lot because they're literally betrothed and so they have to perform a lot in front of the other people.
Mhm.
And working in the resistance together and everything, they get closer, and then you're kind of led to believe that he's developed some feelings for her. You don't really know how Mare feels about it, but then she kind of starts rolling with it because she gets mad at Cal. It's a little bit petty, to be honest. But then it's revealed at the very end that he's been getting close to her in the resistance as a whole setup to overthrow the throne with his mom. They force Cal to murder the king and they film it. And so then they frame him for the murder.
So good.
It is so good. It's a slay
So
scene.
good.
They also obviously
That it
include
is.
Mare in that, and they're like, she corrupted him, like whatever. Yeah, so this whole scene is like pretty turbulent. I think it was very good. I honestly didn't expect them to actually let Maven be a villain, so loved that part. I thought they were gonna wuss out and just have like the queen be the villain or something. So I loved that. Yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of a slay. I did also like, oh, this is important to note for me. There's like a point, the big setup is like the resistance is going to overthrow the capital, whatever. That whole part felt a little too convenient for me. And then they were like, yeah, all you have to do is like go up to Cal and ask him to choose you over his country. He will. He loves you. And I was like, ew, what the fuck? But I thought that was going to work out because it's YA. And then she does. She goes up to Cal and she's like, it's really gross, honestly.
It is.
It made me really have the ick for her. She like she's like, you know, saying like sweet nothings to him or whatever. And she's like, Pygmy, like we can do all this. Da-da-da. And he's like, the poor guy is so in love with her or whatever. He's suffering, but he's like, no. And then he like calls the guards on her or whatever. So I really liked that he didn't just choose her, even though that played right into Maven's plans, that he actually chose like the more difficult thing because he was like, bitch, I've known you for like 4 months. Like I can't just like give my country up to you. Like, are you fucking crazy? Which I think is abnormal for a YA. I think typical YA would be like, I'll give anything for you. Like Rhysand is quaking. Oh my God, someone prioritizing like their people in their country over a woman. Rhysand could never. His whole personality changed. Like that's crazy.
Oh.
That's tea.
That's tea. That's tea.
That's tea. Yeah.
That's the only time Cal earned points from me in the whole book, baby.
I knew you were gonna say that.
I mean, yeah.
You're not
No, that
wrong.
whole this whole section of the book, it just ate. Yeah, and I'm gonna get back to the specifically not just like kill, but like beheading
Oh.
with his dad's own sword, right? Yeah, like the queen just makes him pick up the sword and go for it. And that's crazy. The king says something like, "It's not you. It's not you." Like
That
basically
was
telling Cal
heartbreaking.
like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't
that was a sweet moment.
I know this isn't you. I know you can't stop what you're about to do, but still like especially for the amount of daddy Cal has, that one goes hard. That's tough.
Mm-hmm.
That's tough. It's a good scene. It's a very good scene.
Mm-hmm.
It's my fave, so it ate
It was
up.
a good scene. I totally agree. I thought it was predictable, but maybe that's because I read it before and it was like deep ingrained in my brain. I don't know. But
I
it was
think
good.
that's the
I
thing
thought the
for me
betrayal
is,
was predictable, but not the
yeah.
beheading. Sorry.
I did.
Yeah, sorry.
I
I'm
felt
referring
like,
to the betrayal, not the beheading.
I felt like they were hinting at it. I just didn't think they were gonna actually do it and do it the way they did it in like a big way
Yeah,
like that. Like
fair.
I was impressed that they didn't make Maven really like, because the worst way to do this would be like he still kind of has feelings for her and he's like like they could have leaned into like the book 7 Draco of it all, but they didn't. They really like just
Mhm.
let Maven be a villain and be like, honestly, and there is like a point where he is like, I could have you, but it's so much more like the possessive ownership type of thing, like
Yeah. Like a you can, but I will not be dropping down to like your level. Like you can.
Yeah.
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 So like I don't know, I just like that they like leaned into it fully, because I did think we get so many hints that's like, oh, you shouldn't trust Maven and blah 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 blah. Also, no one fucking ever tells her anything, so it's so YA that everyone is like, oh, even Cal, he's like, Maven has his reasons for not liking Julian. I'm like, just tell her. Can someone talk to her about what's going on? It's YA, so we can't. So she makes like ill-informed decisions to get to us to where we go. So it's fine. Anyway.
Reason I saw all of it coming was because the queen never read her thoughts the whole time, which was a huge plot hole. And I was like, this is such an obvious plot hole. There's got to be a reason for this. And that's what made me like be like, I bet they're going to betray her. And,
I thought the same thing. I was like, they're not being suspicious enough. Like, especially after the prison break, I was like, there's no way the queen would not be like up her ass about
exactly.
this. And I also always
literally
kept in mind that when the betrothal was announced, like, Maven is like disgusted basically on his face, and then the next scene he's like so nice to her, and I was like, how quickly she forgets. The whole time I was like, can we get more context on like why the switch up? Like, it just doesn't make sense for him to go to being disgusted by being betrothed to her to like in the resistance like 2 scenes later. But I honestly, it's my fault because I wrote it off because I was like, that's YA, baby. Like, sometimes shit like that just happens. And so like I didn't take it seriously because I was like, well, I just got done reading Shatter Me, so anything could happen.
That's true. You're right. And we already kind of talked about the like they escape at the end. That's the end.
They do.
Right?
They fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Execution.
And that's how it ends.
So,
And that's how
and
it
then they
ends.
escape off with the Scarlet Guard, and that's the tea. Yeah, that's all I got.
That's the tea.
Other thing to mention here that I thought was nice is like, I like that they didn't leave like as a couple. Like, they didn't just run into each other's arms. I really liked that the framing. I think Mare says something like, Cal betrayed me, I betrayed Cal, and Maven betrayed us both in like 1,000 different ways. I really liked that framing because like there's no way that Cal and Mare can just like be a happy couple right away. They both did horrible things to each other, against each other, and then Maven, they both underestimated, and they paid the price for that. And so I liked that kind of like framing of it. So it's like, and Cal has like lost the will to live. It was interesting. I think book 2, I would probably like Cal more because it seems like he's going to get a little bit more suffering, which is what I need in a man. Honestly, he was a little too confident in book 1 for me.
Yeah, in the end, he was like, you might as well just handcuff me or something, because like, why would you trust me? And I'm like, dude, he's done bad. He's like, yeah, you're right. He's lost the will to live. It's crazy. Yeah. He's lost the fight.
There's like 3 Reds that are like, we'll kill you. And he's like, I could literally cinder all of you to death, but honestly, will you kill me? Oh, also, I love a live brother reveal.
Really?
Yeah, I thought it was fun.
I have some bad news.
Uh-oh. You didn't like it? What's happening?
So, well, we're about to go into hot takes and pour overs.
True. Should I just move us there?
Oh.
Yeah. Send it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Lead us.
We'll let
Maddie,
Abby go
because,
first.
Yeah, Abby can go first.
Yeah.
It's time for hot takes and pour overs, everybody. Abby, lay it on us.
Well, so I liked it in Fourth Wing. I did not like it here. I thought this wasn't. Oh, sorry. I think that I know it's heartwarming. It makes sense that he's a big part of the revolution. It makes sense that he would have found them and like been able to escape. But I think that Mare like already had so much, or her understanding of the resistance and stuff was already growing. She already had pain that she went through, and her through of knowing that Shade was gone. And I think that knowing that because she already suspected that he was a part of the revolution before this, right?
Yeah.
She didn't need this reveal to know that he was involved. So I honestly think that would have been enough. Like, I think that that's something she could have carried with her, and that would have been a cool thing for her to reference later on, in my opinion, is like, and maybe a moment of like memory about him, of like knowing that Shade was a part of it and that she like is making the right choice by going through with the Scarlet Guard. Like, she's on the right path. She trusts her brother. She misses him. She knows deep down that he was a part of this too. So it's just like, I didn't hate it, but I also kind of question if it needs to be there. Now, like I said, I don't remember anything beyond this point. So maybe he has a pretty big role in this next book and I'll feel differently. But I was kind of like, I don't know. We didn't need it here. I felt like he kind of already served his purpose and his role in the Scarlet Guard already meant something to her. And I just didn't feel like he needs to be here. But it was heartwarming though. So
I'm just tired of it. Like, I'm tired of it in every book.
You
know, like, it just happens literally in every, like, kind of dystopian fantasy book. There's always a reveal that someone dead is not really dead. Yeah, and it's exhausting, you know? Like, it's like, there's no stakes anymore because anybody could come back to life or like, you know, have been alive this whole time. So, yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Did Kalorn die?
No.
Sorry. No.
No, of course not.
Damn. I don't know why I was thinking. Oh, it's because he gave her the ear. Yeah. He gave her the earring, and then I forgot if he like died too. Yeah. See,
he should
wish.
Then. Yeah. No. I thought it was nice because she needs someone that she can trust. I don't trust Farley. I don't trust Cal because if he's smart, which he's probably not going to be, but like if he's smart, he's not gonna trust her. And so I like the fact that I don't trust Kalorn because I think he has ulterior motives because he's obviously very possessive over her and I think he's going to not take in her wants and needs.
Yeah,
like,
definitely
for
not.
decisions in
I
the
don't
future.
trust him.
So I liked the fact that she got someone that she could actually trust. And I kind of liked that he had his little powers. I don't know. It didn't make me want to vom as much, but I was also riding the high of like really liking the third act. So that might be why.
That's fair. Well, and that's a good point of like, I guess it all depends for me on like the purpose that he will serve in the next book, because I think that idea of like building trust, I think that's a great point. I think if it's like not just used as a like heartwarming, like, oh, he's still here, like, you know, if he serves a very specific purpose in that way, I think that can make, I just don't think that it needs to be like a heartfelt, like, aw, gotcha moment, or a like showing her commitment to the Scarlet Guard, or, you know, her belief in his commitment to it, because she already knew that he was committed, you know.
Yeah, the commitment to the Scarlet Guard thing, I don't really, that doesn't mean anything to me, because like Kalorn joined just because she did, so I didn't take that like, she took it like it's him signing on to the cause, and I was like, baby girl, what else are they gonna do? Like, obviously they're gonna be in the Scarlet Guard, so I didn't take that serious.
Yeah,
but
true.
I do think, Haley, like, you make a good point. No one ever dies in YAs, so I think I just wasn't like expecting it. But the scene where she finds out that he's dead is like so good. that it like almost
Yeah.
undermines that scene and like her motivation in the entire book.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
also, why would they not tell her when she joined the resistance that he was alive? Oops, sorry. They know they're siblings, so like, why would they not tell her? They trust her implicitly, allegedly. So it also doesn't really make sense in that way. So
No,
I
you're
agree
right.
with you.
Mm,
It's just YA,
Mhm.
so I think
that's a good point.
I was like, they let Maven be the villain, so do whatever you want with the rest of the tropes. I don't care.
That's fair. Yeah,
Fair enough.
fair. Well,
Abby, what's
that's
your
my hot
pour-over?
take. My pour over. I don't really have one. I just want to.
Okay.
I was like, I'm
Slay.
gonna reread this series, but we know I'm not gonna do that. So what I'm actually gonna do is go down the rabbit hole of all the wikis, and I'm just gonna relearn what the entire series is about.
True. I
So
might
that's my
save
pour
myself
over
the
is that I'm about
time.
to be hopping on wiki later, and I'm
Mhm.
gonna be doing this whole story all over again. That's my pour over.
T.
That's it.
Fair enough.
T. I can go next. Okay, my hot take. Here's the thing. The entire fucking book is predicated on Silvers having these powers, and they're supposed to be so cool. And then they're given names like Greenie, Nymph.
You're so right.
What is the other one? Strong Arm?
Strong
I just
arm,
want
yeah.
to know.
And Magnetron.
Magnetron? Oh my god, bro. Like,
It's a sin.
dude, I was cringing so. Like, this sounds like the thing that you just jot down in the first draft of your novel while you think of like a better
You're so
naming
right.
scheme, and then like
That's true.
they just decided to keep it. Like, that was so fucking embarrassing the whole book for me, and like I could not get beyond the names. Like, I don't know who's in charge of this. It sounds so stupid. Magnetron is like the worst thing I've ever heard. I'm like, are we a Pokemon? Like, literally, what in the Pokemon is going on here? Like, I cannot take it seriously when you're like, he's a nymph, but it's just a guy that controls water. Like, that's not what a nymph is, bro. Like, I could not. I cannot believe her publisher let her do this, because it's also not like even marketable. Like, you never want to take a quiz and be like, you're a greenie. Bro, what are we even doing here? I hated it.
If BuzzFeed would reject it, then
Right.
yeah.
There's like no rhyme or reason.
If BuzzFeed won't write the quiz, then like we're lost. Yeah,
Does
like
she
what are we
even get a
doing?
name for like what her
Yeah.
power is, or are they just like Little Lightning Girl and that's all we get? Because it's not the
I
first
don't think
time.
they ever name it because it's so uncommon. I don't think that they name it now that you say that.
Which also
Electra.
doesn't make any sense. Like,
I did not like it either. I'm totally with you.
yeah,
Short circuit. Yeah.
it's crazy.
Yeah,
Anyways,
good
that's my hot take. Was
point.
that shit was cringe. My pour over. I would love to get a real enemies to lovers Draco and Hermione style redemption arc for Maven and Mare. Because I don't care if she ends up with Cal. Like, it's not a story I'm interested in reading. Because it's the same old story, song and dance. So that's what I'm hoping for. That's the narrative that I'll write in my head. That's my pour over. I'm just thinking about Maven. Just my boy, my new adopted son. I love him and his dark and twisties. And I hope he kills his mom. Oh my god. I want like if you're like a Game of Thrones girly, I want like a Jaime Cersei kind of moment where like it's like Jaime kills Cersei because she's like been in his head and like she's so toxic and she's led him down all these paths, and like he gets this moment where he's like and like killed. Like, that's what I want for Maven. So that's what's in my head. Yeah, it would eat. It would slay. It would slay because she's evil. She's a bitch. So I'm just blaming her for everything so that I can have my dark and twisty son. That's all.
All right.
My hot take isn't really hot, but I was just gonna say, like, Victoria, the author of this book, relies way too heavily on like the shocking twists at every moment, and like at the expense of world building and descriptions and stuff, because like I could not visualize anything in this book. Like, every time she would write a description, I would be like, okay, and I would just skim over it because I gave up on trying to understand what they looked like and what was going on. And so I just feel like, yeah, she relies way too heavily on the twists.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't visualize stuff in books that much, so I wouldn't know.
Did not.
But now that you
think
say
about
that,
it till you said that.
But now that you point that out, the fact that I could barely answer the quintessential YA question of what color was their hair, though, tells me a lot. So, like,
but we knew the eyes. Yeah. Come on, Abby. We knew their eye color.
Yeah, you're right. I was just skimming. My bad.
Yeah, I didn't realize that we don't know, like, any details really about, like, the castle and the shit that they're in, because I don't care about those things. So I didn't. Like, it was fine for me, but it's also completely valid now that you mention it that, like, that was not really there. There's, like, one description of, like, it's on a cliff, and I was like, sure, whatever. Insert, like, stock image of castle on cliff. I'm like, that seems good. Ship it.
That's it.
Even Mare, I'm like, we know that she has, like, mousy brown hair, but that's literally...
Well, Kaylee, she has mousy brown hair. She's probably really petite, so skinny, so snatched.
You're right.
You know, she's
so
starvingly skinny.
Yeah. She's probably got like brown eyes too. What else is like self-insert? If we look up a picture of like Victoria Aveyard, it's probably close, unless she's a bottle boy.
You're so right.
Sorry, was that too much?
Oh my god. Oh my god,
dude. Okay, the second we hang up in like a couple of minutes, the way I'm gonna whip out my phone and show Maddie a picture of Victoria Aveyard, who is stunning and gorge. But yes, probably likely teenage Victoria Aveyard.
Yeah, probably just that.
Oh my god. That's crazy. It was just Killorn and why he sucks so much. So we already talked about that. I just wanted to know why he sucks so much. Yeah. All right. That brings us to our last segment. Ratings and favorite parts. So my rating is, I'm bringing it down to a 3.7 out of 5. Yeah, I've already stated why. Favorite part is the scene where Mare discovers her powers. I thought that was cool. That's it.
I would give this like a 5 of 5 for YA, for like the genre that it belongs in, the audience that it's written to. I think this is pretty close to like a perfect YA. Trope wise, checklist wise, it's written gracefully, it makes sense, the world is like believable, blah 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 blah. For me personally, obviously it's not what I'm looking for. I still really enjoyed the third act, so it's still 4 or 5 for me, because I just enjoyed the villain arc and they actually leaned into it. My favorite part probably is actually, this is gonna be niche. I will say I liked the part where Mare discovers that her blood is like being sampled and compared to the database, and Maven has like a really strong reaction and kisses her, because I think that's the point where in my brain I started believing Maven more. And like trusting him more. So for me, that was the lever that was pushed, because I believed his acting in that moment. I was like, homegirl kind of is down bad for her, and he's gonna do what he can to protect her, which made the betrayal work in the end. So for me, I would say that's my favorite part. That was a good lever to pull, because I was like, oh, okay, slay king.
That was a good one. Good pick. Yeah, my rating, I would have to agree, it's a near perfect YA. And yeah, 4, maybe 4.5 for me, just a general experience. I liked it. I was here for it. Still here for it, which is exciting. Favorite part, probably, the King's beheading. I'm just gonna keep talking about that, which is great. That, and then for a very different vibe, the Cal and Mare dancing scene. So 2 like very big scenes in the book. Probably not anything super surprising there, but
it's very cute.
Very cute beheading, you know? Yeah.
I was talking about the dancing!
Oh, right, of course. I had no idea. Yeah.
Bruh! She's crazy. Okay, slay. All right, if everyone has said their piece, that is all the tea that we have on Red Queen. Next time, we are finally leaving the realm of YA, and we're going to be reading The Book of Night by Holly Black. My Queen Holly, take me back. You can also stay up to date with the latest tea on Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube by following us at Spill the Novel Tea on all the things. And while you're there, please let us know. Does this book live up to the hype for you like it does for us? Is this your YA favorite? What do you think about it being written in 2015? Because my ass was over here thinking this was written in 2008 in the height of the dystopian era, and I feel a little differently about it now, I'm not gonna lie. So what are your thoughts on that? Let us know. We will see you next time.